I am unashamed. What about you?
So we sent Jase out on assignment to just let things happen to him so he'd have stories when he comes back. Yeah. So we send him out from time to time.
So y'all put him out in the world just saying, hey, we're going to see what's going to happen.
You don't have to send him any place in particular or anything else.
Or give him an agenda.
No agenda. No. Just let him go.
And just you bring the story
and interact with people.
And bring the story
And
back.
it's constant conflict. Battles. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. The man is just, and then he comes back, and we basically have a podcast or two of his interactions that usually end poorly with the public.
He will never. Miss Kay never ceases to remind me. She said, out of those 4 boys, she said, one of them, she said, I argued with them until. From the time they were this high.
From the moment he could speak.
Yeah, the moment he could speak. She said, I've argued with that Jase his whole childhood.
It's almost 50 years now. And he claims it's because she never got his humor.
Yeah.
He was just joking.
It was all
a joke. Yeah. And she didn't get it. I said, well, Jase, what's the problem now with the rest of the world? Because nobody else is getting your stuff either.
Nobody get along with you. Nobody else get along with you.
Well, since he isn't here, so laughing and having fun is actually encouraged.
Yeah.
Jay nicknamed Jase the fun sucker because he sometimes will suck the fun out of it.
Well, sometimes. Not all the time.
Not all the time.
I nicknamed him Lone Wolf McQuaid.
That's right.
Which that fits him pretty well, too. So, in his place, to show you how hard it is to replace Jase, we have 3 guests today.
That's it.
We have, of course, 2 from our sister podcast, the Duck Call Room. We have Cy returning to Unashamed. We got Stone making his return as well. And you guys brought a guest, so introduce
Yes, we did. So I keep hearing these stories, Phil, when y'all were coming up. Cy always said the phrase among the Robertson men was, who is a man?
Who's a man?
So when I met this guy.
That was the mantra. We carried that one, that's why no shoes, barefoot only.
Yeah.
We travel barefoot about 2 years at the peak of the who's a man. No shoes allowed. So I look back at it now.
It's kind of dumb.
A lot of getting drunk. And you bring in an arm wrestler. This is arm wrestling king. A lot of that was mixed in, getting on the highway, and we figured out that a human being on a 40-yard run in the middle of the pavement, everybody drinking, we get out there.
It was Highway 167
and
going
you could
into
park
Arkansas.
your car, and the bet would be I can outrun any vehicle at 40 yards. 40 yards
drag racing, a human being drag racing a vehicle.
I continue to make money with that and making a lot of money. But the arm wrestling was there at the bar.
That was out back. So I used to.
The arm wrestling reminds me of my days of wickedness.
Why's it got to be wicked?
Arm man, we were
Nothing against you, Michael.
We were children of the devil, my man. So at least he's got it cleaned up where there's no getting drunk and doing it.
So Jay, you brought a real man.
That's right. So I thought when I met Michael, I thought this is the guy that Phil and Cy are always talking about. Who's the man? Well, this is a man. This is right here.
He's the man.
He is the man. He is world champion arm wrestler.
And proves you can follow Jesus and be an arm wrestler at the same time.
That's right.
Exactly right.
That's right. Living the proof of that.
Yep.
Anyways, I just thought that since y'all were trying to figure out who's the man, I actually met the man that y'all were talking about, and y'all could get some. You can maybe. I knew back in the day you had some arm wrestling experience of your own back when you were a heathen.
He was working on it. He was working on his testimony.
Working on his testimony.
I have
He was out in the world.
Look at that bicep.
That's what he tore.
Yeah.
This is what you look forward to, dude. Look, all this just shifted in a moment, and all kinds of purple and green came up into my. But there I am now. So,
Dad, what were you doing when you tore your bicep? What was that? It was some big heavy project.
All I did was
reach
quickly for a falling shotgun. And when I caught it, I went, hey. And I looked down there and said, arm wrestling is over.
No more arm wrestling.
So you were a lefty?
Huh?
You were lefty arm wrestling?
No, it just my left one went out, but I'm right-handed.
Okay.
But I swing everything. I swing.
He passed left-handed.
Yeah, okay.
Well, so this is Michael Todd, by the way, or I guess he'll be known as Arm Man the rest of the podcast because Dad has to nickname people. But so you are the world champion.
Yes,
and
sir.
For those of you listening, you probably really need to go to YouTube to really appreciate this podcast to get a look at Michael because he's quite the specimen. And so Michael came to us by way of Matt Lyda,
Yes, sir.
who is not a man.
Yeah.
He's a fake man.
Yeah.
And but because of Nine Lines is one of your sponsors, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. They partnered up. My wife and I are doing a nationwide tour across the United States, basically just exposing people to the sport of arm wrestling, taking all comers and just having cool life experiences like this. Nine Line jumped on board, thought it was a cool thing we were doing, and so that's how I got to meet you guys.
So it's funny. So I pull in. I come home yesterday from preaching. I pull into my driveway, and there was a redneck Dream parked in my driveway.
Right in your driveway.
Yeah, exactly. And so I saw it, and I thought, what in the world? Because there's a big picture of Michael on the side of it, a monster man. And I thought, if he's going to drive out to Phil's tomorrow, and every redneck's going to be lined up waiting for him to come back through, just to salute him. Because, you saw the travel trailers. I told you, I said, people live in motorhomes and travel trailers around here, but his is tricked out, to the max.
I saw it. Yeah. The last time I saw something like his rig was when ZZ Top pulled in here.
That's right. On their tour bus.
Yeah,
tour.
They had two of them, and I said,
Yeah.
"What's with the two buses? Why don't just two of you? Why don't you just keep it down to one?" He said, "It's like a long marriage. After years, he said you learn two buses is the way to go.
Yeah.
One
Can't live together.
Yeah, one in one bus, one in the other. I thought makes sense.
Well, Phil, Al says that you used to arm wrestle those loggers and pulpwood haulers for money.
Yep.
And look, I used to climb up in a magnolia tree that was behind that bar. I was about 6 or 7 years old. And there's a lot that happens outside a bar. I don't know. I don't know if you have a bar in your past.
I don't even want to go through it all. I don't want to hear about it.
This is Al's child.
It's my child.
6 or 7 years old.
It's basically outside bar observation. So I saw a lot of stuff. But one of the things that, really, to be honest with you, made me proud because it's your dad,
Right.
But every time they would come out, of course, the one advantage Dad had is that he wasn't drunk and they were. Which was good.
That helps.
That helps, I think.
Yeah.
But he had some kind of technique because I never saw him lose, and I saw a lot of matches, and there were some guys that looked sort of like you, but they were just kind of country strong, pulpwood guys and all that.
Robert Brunet was on the football squad at Louisiana Tech. He was the arm wrestling king.
Is that where you learned?
Robert
your
Brunet
technique?
from LaRose Cutoff played for the Washington Redskins.
Yep. You played at Tech.
I told a man about that earlier. Yeah, he played ball at Tech, but he was the king.
I remember him. Okay, he wasn't as big as you are, but his arms, bicep?
Yeah.
His biceps was the size of yours. He looked like a freak.
Yeah, he was a bull.
But
Strong young man.
He did. But back to who's a man, when that was going on, I was saying, no, hey, I'm a boy. I ain't in this. Okay.
So Phil, what was your secret to beating those pulpwood guys? Was technique? What kind of technique did you have?
It's hard to say about the configuration of some people. It don't seem like they would be really good at arm wrestling, and they are.
Absolutely.
And some people you'd think with just the girth of the muscle, they would have to have it, but there's
kind of a leverage thing, right? Tell us kind of the physics of it.
Well, basically, so most people who are good at arm wrestling are just those hard-working manual labor people. Because hands and wrists are the most important part of arm wrestling. Most people think it's just pushing to the side or whatever, but the actual sport of arm wrestling is more of a tug of war. So you start hands in the center of the table. You want to pull the opponent to you. So your hand and wrist has to be strong, but your back's the biggest muscle you use. But if your hand and wrist isn't strong enough to support that, it doesn't matter. So I would come.
So your guns are just for show because you're doing all your hard work with everything else.
Right, yeah. So the biceps help.
I like it. The
gun show.
The biceps help, but mainly it's a back movement. It's hand and wrist. There's supination, pronation. There's a lot of different things. The funny thing is, because I've been doing this for 31 years. I started in 1990 at the Saline County Fair, and people are like, yeah, that guy's stronger than you, but you know the technique. Well, no, his bench press muscles are stronger than mine, or his squat or deadlift muscles. My arm wrestling muscles are highly developed because I've arm wrestled a million times, right? So it's just whatever you do. And I've always taken the approach to arm wrestling. A lot of people will say, well, you can only train a body part, so many times a week. Well, if you're a mechanic, you can't go to work today as a mechanic and say, well, I can't go tomorrow because I worked yesterday as a mechanic. So I just treated arm wrestling like a job. So I train my hand, wrist, and forearm every day. And that's the reason I've done as well as I've done.
Been successful.
Yeah.
I read on the internet where you've broken your arm or either of your arms 70 times. Is that true? Is that just
it's
because we don't believe anything we read on the internet?
And you should not.
Okay, good.
That is one example. So my left elbow, the doctor misdiagnosed me 11 years ago and said I had a muscle tear. So I was all black and blue, and I was like, oh, no big deal. So I went into a world title match in London, and I drove in against a guy, got in great position, and I'm kind of putting on a show for the camera, and pow. Medial ligament rips off the bone. The flexor mass rolls up the forearm. The elbow dislocates 6 inches. So I'm facing this way. It lands on the table behind me. Ooh. So that's what they went in. They rebuilt this. I didn't have health insurance for like the first 20 years of my arm wrestling career. So I finally did. And I'm like, well, x-ray my right arm. Well, they x-rayed my right arm. And at the time, they said they found over 70 fractures.
That was true.
Yeah. So my right arm, I've lost 19 and a half inches range of motion. This is horrible. I'll show you. So check this out. So
that seems like a barrel of fun.
That's as far as it straightens.
Wow.
Look at that.
This is a bad one.
Yeah.
Stops.
That's as hard as it comes.
Stops right there.
That's bone on bone.
Wow.
Good grief.
Yeah.
So back to our earlier comment about who's a man.
Yeah. Forget who's a man. I'm back to boy.
He's a little deeper inside the art of arm wrestling than I ever was.
I like because he's painting this picture of what happens to his arm. So 3 weeks ago, I was swinging a golf club and felt the pop. That's how not less of a man. I swung a golf club and hit a ball and snapped.
I mean, I reached for my falling shotgun and ended up with all this changing spots. And we took a picture of it. And the nurse man that runs with us, he's a nurse practitioner. So with us, that's the greatest surgeon and doctor of all time.
That's it, boy.
A nurse practitioner inside the blind with you. He said, let me take a picture of it, and I'll send it to a buddy of mine. He took a picture of it. And it turned purple and green and yellow with just, from the tear. And his surgeon said, the surgeon that fixes, he said, oh, I can fix that in 20 minutes. He said, but is it hurting right now? I said, no. I said, it hurt for about 3 or 4 days. But I said, when I first did it, I thought, man, it hurt. But now, no problem. He said, let it ride.
Let it ride.
I said, that's why you need to know somebody. So instead of saying, he said, I can fix it, put it all together. He said, but it'll grow back where you won't even know what happened. I said, hey, okay.
There you go.
Although looking at it, I'm not sure. I know something happened looking at that.
Oh, yeah.
Because you now have a unicep, not a bicep.
It might be them. Might be from the pristine waters of New Zealand.
There you go.
Right. Well, hey,
I take one pharmaceutical, baby aspirin, one baby aspirin a day. That's it.
well, Omega XL. I'm telling you, I had aches and pains, and when I take it, I don't have aches and pains.
Well, me either.
That was a free commercial.
That's right,
good
boy.
friends
Hey,
at Omega
one more
XL.
time.
Fish oil, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right.
Get off the marijuana oil. I've never
That's
sold
right.
it.
Hey, from the pristine waters of New Zealand, boys.
Oh, man. So let's take a break.
Yeah.
So we're into trees. Have you noticed that, Si?
No. Are they hugging them?
No, we're not hugging them.
We ain't hugging them? Okay. All right.
But we like-
hey, look, a lot of people like to hug them.
We don't hug them, but we do grow them, and we like to hide behind them.
Oh, they
I've
have good cover.
planted thousands.
Thousands. And Dad's got some cypress trees out there, which,
It's against the law now to cut a bald cypress
I saw
in the
that.
state of Louisiana.
which is really
So
perfect.
I've been planting them for all them cypress.
yeah.
Y'all looking at them over there. I'm looking at them saying, boy, this is beautiful.
And deer
now they
love
got a
'em.
law. You can't cut them. Well, I'm a guy who saw that way before they passed that
So
law.
we call Dad the king of the slow growing trees because our trees take a while. But we have a sponsor called Fast Growing Trees, which when you need a fast grower, these are the guys you go to. So they have this the world's largest online nursery. They grow these trees. Lisa and I bought some for our place down at the Southern Lair in Alabama. they come to you. I mean, they're perfect. Like they weren't messed. Some stuff you get in the mail. You're like, This stuff was excellent. In fact, they've got a 30-day Alive and Thrive guarantee, which means your plants come happy, healthy, and ready for planting.
We hug people and we plant trees.
Got it.
There's a difference.
So
there you go.
So through July 31st, go to fastgrowingtrees.com/Robertson. You get 15% off. So it's fastgrowingtrees.com/Robertson. Get your trees and hug people.
How many they do they have fruit trees in this place?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
They got everything.
Okay.
Fastgrowingtrees.com, so you need to check it out.
Okay. Yeah. Huh. I might get some. Give me some fruit.
So Cy, you were there. What most people don't know is, so you lived in Junction City, right around the early 70s during the Who's the Man era, and you were there maybe 2 years, 3?
Yeah, I was never part of that. Who's the man?
He backed off.
I backed off and said, "I'm out of this, guys."
Well, you'd been to Vietnam, so you understood a little bit about the Who's the Man era from doing that. Yeah. So you were with us, and of course, my theory has always been that the reason Jase acts like you sometimes, but not near as fun, is because you and Christine used to keep him when he was just a toddler.
I didn't even remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Christine said, "Well, you stupid idiot, yo." She said, "We kept him every weekend." He said, "That's why you and him can't get along. Y'all are too much alike."
Well, it was the double whammy. Cause
I don't know why I missed out
on
on the fun part, though.
Well, he's like you on the argumentative, stubborn side without any of the fun.
I understand why Kay argued with him all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But, it's always fun to talk about.
So not only have y'all talked about when Phil used to race the cars?
That's what he was
talking about a minute ago. The 40-yard dashes.
You can outrun 98% of the vehicles, 99, because they will spin somewhat when they run.
No traction.
And you're running on foot, barefoot in this case, but I could cross the fort. They were gaining on me quickly, but I could not outrun a Harley Davidson. But they barely beat me.
Or a horse.
Motorcycle.
Right?
Or a horse.
Yeah, or a horse. But anybody that got in a vehicle, once they spun their tires just a little bit, any rubber burning, and I was on down toward the 40 yards, and there were a lot of people faster than me, but I collected $20. It was $20 riding on every one of them, $20.
You got to remember too. I mean,
I made many $20. Outrun a vehicle on pavement.
Dad was still a college athlete at the time. I mean, he was just out of college, and he had played.
Leave it to a redneck. Okay.
By the way,
any way to make $1.
By the way, for you ladies and gentlemen who are listening to this, don't ever do those kind of things. Don't even get involved in that at all.
It's a DED. I agree.
That's it.
And but Dad was always like, what I love about it is some of the entrepreneurial spirit was already alive then too, in terms of how to have a business and all that. So
by the way,
once you got lined out spiritually, it worked out.
Yeah. By the way, I read through this, Al, and I was surprised that there is somewhat a lengthy number of years, all the empires about arm wrestling, could have been going on 4,000 years ago. And
they said this in these Pharaoh tombs I read, they found like drawings of people arm wrestling. So you're talking about, and that's 4,000 years ago. Yeah. So, I mean, this goes way back.
Yeah. Pretty interesting.
They don't know for sure exactly what they were doing, but it looked like they were arm wrestling.
We're living in post spears and knives and bow and arrows and whatever, clubs. But, during that era, you would probably, to meet someone, which would be basically an arm wrestle, there's not many just sharp-pointed sticks and spears. Arm wrestling techniques would be handy to keep you alive.
Well, that's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Well, in the Greeks,
wouldn't you think?
I like the way you're thinking. I would have done really well back then.
You would have stood out, Michael.
We can't go get our gun because they haven't invented gunpowder till 1200 AD, I think it was.
Yep.
But you say, well, no gunpowder. This was just basically a lot of hand to hand to put it mildly.
Right.
Hand to hand. Well, you think about them soldiers now. I mean, having a skill set that he has, pinning somebody on the ground in a hurry.
That's right.
You know?
And being able to break your arm 70 times and still hang in there.
Yeah.
I mean, that alone makes it pretty special.
Well, one of the most impressive things about Phil that I've seen over the years is his tolerance for pain.
Yeah.
It is. I've never seen a man, and I asked Dr. Hilburn, who's my dentist, he's Phil's dentist. I said, is it true that Phil comes in here, when you're drilling on him, he takes zero painkiller? He said that's 100% true. So
He doesn't like the Novocaine.
and I also
I
learned.
simply ask, how long is this going to take?
Yeah.
And when he says, oh, a minute, I said, I can stand anything for a minute. Get after it. I said, I don't want my mouth all, I said, deadened. I said, just do what you got to do, Doc. Let's go with it.
There you go.
You walk out and you feel no ill effects of anything. I mean, you're in and you're out, and you felt about a minute's worth of pain, but after that,
And this is coming from Stone, who has to get on gas to get his teeth clean.
That's right.
it kind of gives, by the way,
I mean,
yeah.
that's what I call a low pain tolerance.
That sounds like something Matt lied.
It adds to the, this is good for you, for the arm wrestler, man. I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. Well, when you're in a bind, you say you must remain content during this venture. I know what it is to be in need, what it is to have. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. That's a good way to roll.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if you pull it off.
Yeah.
It's not as easy.
Some things,
It's not as easy
pain
to
is
read.
with it. Pain comes with a lot of things, including what he does. You take about the wear and tear on the whatever, his arm length, strength, muscle popping, bone cracking. You're like, you would have to have a high tolerance
So you
for
must have a
pain,
pretty
or
high-
you wouldn't do what he does. So you've experienced your share of pain.
Do you get gas when you go to the dentist?
I have not, but
No reflection on you, Jays.
to each his own. To each his own. You're no less of a man in my eyes. But yeah, so I've always had relative certain things I have a high pain tolerance. Other things my wife will tell you I'm kind of a wuss. So
Well,
yeah.
having hands the sizes of plates must have. I shook his hand yesterday. He literally enveloped. I mean, like I could have put both in
Yeah,
there.
it disappeared.
Yeah,
Just
just
Si
disappeared.
said when they prepare you to go into a war like Vietnam, 2 lines form, 3, 4 lines, and they're just coming by like cattle. And he said they're standing there with look like blowguns,
Oh yeah.
but
Air,
it's got air needles, and they're just popping you for this and that. And
One
the
in
other-
each shoulder.
One in each shoulder.
Yeah.
They just pop.
and they tell you when you're doing it, do not flinch,
Don't flinch.
because if you do, it's like a laser. They'll flinch.
It's hard not to flinch when
each cut.
when you're being perforated
Yeah.
with these pharmaceuticals on both sides
No
of it.
telling what that was.
Oh, no.
Now going back to being content. Now when you go through something like when you go to theater, you go to war, you get a perspective on what it's like to have an air condition or have a toilet that flushes.
Yeah.
So when you get back from something like that, you have a different perspective. You say, boy, this flushing toilet sure is nice.
What do you
Yeah, so-
Jay, describe what it was like at the latrine
When you're pouring the diesel over in there and
Yeah,
lights
yeah.
setting on.
Well,
Start,
you know,
start on the front side though. So how many you got lined up in a row?
well, there was at first there was always a long line. You know, you had the drums when they got full, they had to be burned down to a sludge and then put back in there. So I'm trying to tell this story in a way that's suitable. It's hard.
Yeah.
So if you were below an E5, you had that detail. So you'd have to stir the pot like a big gumbo, get it down to a sludge, bring it back in. And that was one of the worst things about being over there. And they had the big blowflies.
Well, I'm glad now because I can't smell anything.
Yeah.
I'm glad I have that particular ailment. Is the roast done yet?
That would have served you well.
Yeah, the last thing you would think about when doing that, you don't want nothing to eat that day.
But I will tell you one thing. When I got back home from that 12-month tour in Afghanistan, I was very content with what I had.
And your appreciation level was way
That's right.
way up.
And now, especially, I am very content and very appreciative and very blessed.
Yeah.
Well, it was interesting because when you got back, because you left, I would say you were still unsettled, just generally, because we knew Jay well.
Yep.
And then, of course, he kind of got the thought process since he was literally almost out. And then all of a sudden, here we are at war.
Oh, yeah.
That it was kind of a like, this must be it for me. Because, that would be easy to think that way.
Stop loss.
Right.
I was on stop loss for 12 months. So my contract ran out right before we left. And you know what stop loss is? They freeze your contract and say, oh, you're going. Yeah. We need all the men we can get. So I was like, oh, good grief.
You're in whether you want to be or not.
That's it.
I can still remember Jay coming forward at WFR. I was working there then. And with his whole family, his grandpa who had served in World War II was there. Yep. And we prayed over him that God would keep him safe. And little did I know when he got back home and found contentment and a closer relationship with God that he would wind up marrying my daughter. Which is why I always say, look, be nice to people because you never know. They may marry one of your kids. If you're a jerk, then you got to deal with that your whole life.
Yeah. So I'm the one that brought it up. You ought to marry that granddaughter of mine. I said, I'm recommending you. I said, to Al. I said, you got to check with Al. That's her dad. I'm her granddad. I said, but tell Al the granddad has said,
he passed muster.
Marrying stock.
Good to go.
He passed muster.
So Stone, I said, take that message to Al because you got to clear it with him. I said, but this will help you, I believe, if you refer to me having vetted you. and
You've been properly vetted.
Yeah. So he went to see Al, and Al gave him a few little rules. Wait till she gets to be 18, I think.
Yeah, that was important.
I told him, I said, when he said she's not but 17, I said, that's what I'm saying. Move now.
Make him move now, son.
Don't wait till she's 20, son.
Just to make things clear, that was 17 years ago. Can you believe that? 17 years ago.
Unbelievable.
Because Jay was a little older. Let's take it.
Now he's got grown kids sitting there.
I know.
Let's take another break. So I'm driving out here to do the podcast, Stone, and I stop at Si's house because I had something for him to sign or some business because sometimes we have to do a little business. And so I come in and he's sitting in his recliner and he's watching, I think it was like some old concert or something. It's like the Eagles or somebody they're playing, so you're listening to music and we do our business.
In Melbourne.
Yeah.
The Eagles in Melbourne.
There you go. Eagles so
Australia.
So I drive down and I walk in the living room to talk to Dad before we come do the podcast. Dad's sitting in his recliner watching the exact same show that Si was watching.
Hey, it's Matt Dillon or music, boys.
And I just had a moment, I just thought, man, it's like they're clones, So they're recliner men, but Jace, as we've discovered, is a couch man. Yeah. Jace loves his little couch.
Oh, yeah.
And so one of the reasons he loves his couch is one of our sponsors, and it's called Allform. And their parent company, Helix, is who started it. And they make couches.
Oh, and they make beds. Because I've got one.
And they're great, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're
they
awesome.
Are.
Well, their couches are great, too. We're going to have to get you a couch, Si. So you get 100 days to decide when you order this thing. It comes. That's more than 3 months. So if you don't like it, they'll pick it up. But you'll love it because I love mine. They have a forever warranty. So anything goes wrong, as long as forever is a long time. Yeah. Here's what you do for the perfect sofa.
I'm there.
Perfect sofa. Go to allform.com/unashamed. That's ALLFORM, allform.com/unashamed. You get 20% off for all of our listeners. Unashamed, allform.com, and you got 3 months to check it out. You'll love it.
Yeah, hey, and they'll come pick it up if you don't like it.
Every time I go to his house, he's laying on it.
Yeah, we have our 15-year-old, Jay's oldest granddaughters is sitting in today, along with Rebecca, Michael's wife, who's really the brains of the operation.
That's right.
Pretty much. I mean, we met her because we had dinner with you guys last night, and we met her and we said, okay, now I see how all this is working. I said,
she is a woman, the Bible would say that she's a woman of noble character.
Exactly.
That's good for a man.
More precious than stones.
That's right. Or stone.
Diamonds, rubies, all that.
So I was thinking about this, what we started with the Who's the Man. So I told a story yesterday in my sermon about where sometimes a high pain threshold can be a curse, because sometimes painful things happen to you because you need to get help, you know, which Dad's discovered this a couple years ago as well.
Bet you.
And so when my appendix ruptured, I mean, I remember exactly when it happened, 2:00 in the morning. I run out back. I mean, I'm in my underwear and I'm outside and it's in December and I'm just sweating profusely. And then I just throw up in the backyard. And I was like, man, I got a bad crawfish or something, you know, last night at the restaurant. Huh. So I thought it was just like a stomach issue. But what had happened was that thing had ruptured right then. Ooh. So I went back in, laid on the couch. I just couldn't find a comfortable position.
That can kill you, Al.
Oh, I could have been dead. Some people don't even survive minutes, you know, after it happened. Yeah. So I laid on that couch and squirmed, went through up again, went back in, laid down. I didn't go back in there where Lisa was. I just laid on the couch. And finally, I dozed off about 5 in the morning. And when I woke up, I felt better. So I just thought, well, whatever that was rough, you know. And Lisa said, are you going to the building today? It was a Sunday morning. I said, I think I'm just going to hang here. I didn't get any sleep last night. And through the day, I just didn't feel quite right, but I didn't feel super sick. So a couple of days go by, and I said, man, that's some kind of virus or something. And you know, I didn't have any like outer pain. And so, but then about the third night, I dreamed that I was drowning. You know what I mean? I was like, in my dream, I'm trying to, and Lisa reaches down and pulls me out of the river by my hair. You know, that's in my dream. And when I woke up, she was patting on the top of my head because I was just soaking wet with sweat. And the whole bed was wet. So we had to get up, change the sheets. That's how, I mean, that's so much I sweat. So what it was, your body is like you're saying something bad is going on here. So I just said, who's a man, I guess.
Who's a man?
With those words ringing in my ears.
So I learned. I learned from Phil.
Bad phrase, boy.
You know, Si, I've learned a lot of things from Phil over the years. But the number one thing I learned is that you do not go to the doctor unless you are bleeding from an orifice.
That's what a surgeon told him a long time ago.
That's what a doctor told him.
So I spoke at WFR that week on Christmas Eve. We had Christmas Day. I felt pretty good. The day after Christmas, I felt so good. Now it's a Saturday, so it's almost a full week.
That's crazy.
And I said, I'm going to go hunting today. You know, y'all have been killing some ducks. Yeah. So I come down here. But what I didn't realize is by all that, effort to get out to the blind and all that, I mean, I exerted myself, but I was in no shape to do it. So I got out to the blind, and I mean, I just felt terrible. The worst I'd felt through the whole process. And I'm just sitting there. Everybody's boom, 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 boom. And we killed 30-something ducks that day. There's a picture of me laying on top of this big pile of ducks. And so, but I never got up. I never shot. I just sat there in between Jeff and God.
Well, I remember Jeff saying that morning, Jeff told Phil, he said, Dad, I think something's wrong with Al. I think we need to get him
to
the hospital. Yeah. And Phil looked down there. Al's laying out, white as a ghost. And Phil looked around. He said,
what time?
Well, what time is it?
Somebody said 9 o'clock.
Yeah, Phil said, we ought to get them at least to 11.
Once again,
I'm like Jeff. I was worried about you.
If I had known his appendix had burst.
Well,
who's the man?
Yeah.
But that was the first time.
Dad.
So by the way, when they finally found it, you go in there, they find it, they say, man, we need to move on this quick.
Well, by now, Lisa is just like, she is so on my case. And so now it's Sunday, and I was like, all right, look, if it's not better tomorrow, we'll go do the CAT scan. Because the only thing I could do is do a CAT scan. That's what the nurse practitioner told me. I didn't want to go to the hospital. It's Christmas week, but obviously I knew now something ain't right.
Yeah.
And so Monday I go in, they do the CAT scans, half a day fighting with insurance, whether you need to. I'm dying. And they don't want to, who's going to pay for it? I was like, look, I'll pay for it. Let's just get this over with. Finally got the thing done. Lisa and I have a commercial. We were doing a commercial for somebody. And so I'll never forget, we were in Willie's Diner, and we were setting up to film this commercial. And the guy that works for us at the church was one of the guys on the film crew. He still remembers this. And so I get the call from Michelle Phillips. And she says, the first thing she said was Glenwood or St. Francis. And I was like, what is it? That's our 2 hospitals.
Right.
And she said, your appendix has ruptured, and it's formed like this wall around it, but it looks like a bomb went off in your guts. And she said, we got to deal with that now. Yeah. So I hit mute on the phone and I said, how long it would be before y'all get this set up? He said, we're almost there, 5 minutes. So I hit the thing back and said, I'll be there in 20 minutes. So I filmed the commercial. Who's a man? Yeah. I filmed the commercial, and the commercial, I've seen it since. I looked so bad. I was dying. And so I go to the hospital, and within an hour, the guy comes in, he says, look, and Michelle got this guy, he does these laparoscopic, like people closing off their gut, to try to lose weight or whatever. So he's really skilled at doing it through the laparoscopically. And he knows it too, because his doctors, he's like, I'm the best in the state of Louisiana. I was like, oh, well, good. That's good for me. Good to know. He said, but I will tell you this. He said, I've had 2 cases that I just couldn't get it done, and I had to split them open to do it. He said, and I got to tell you, the reason I'm telling you this is there's a pretty good chance you're going to be number 3. Because he said, you got a mess in there. He said, how long has this been going on? I said, about 8 days. He said, oh my gosh, I can't even believe you're still alive. Yeah. So, but when I woke up at 4 a.m, we talked about how surgery, I never remember anything. I was talking to the anesthetist, and the next thing I know, it's 4 a.m. I wake up, you're kind of like, where am I? And I went to get up, and there's something hanging out of my side. It's like one of those drain tubes. But I noticed I wasn't split open because, that's another 2 weeks of healing up if you have to get that done. So I learned a lesson there that you probably are just going to go to the doctor if you're not quite sure.
Yeah, that who's a man deal can lead to your death.
Who's a man can land you in a hospital bed.
What are you talking about?
Let's take another break. So one of the things I thought was interesting about, because I did a bit of research on arm wrestling, is as a sport, according to what I found on the internet, you can tell me if this is true or not, it wasn't really like official until the 50s is what this says. Is that true? Has it been around as a competitive sport for about 60 years?
Yeah, going on 70 years. So there was a lot of action going on back in those days. Then it went to Wide World of Sports. Petaluma, California started holding the World Wrist Wrestling Championships. And I don't know if you guys remember, but remember ABC's Wide World of Sports?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it was filmed on that for a long time. Wrist wrestling is where you locked hands in the middle and you pinned your opponent to your forearm. So that's how I got started in 1990. And then I got involved in arm wrestling, where there's hand pegs out the side, elbow pads, pin pads. So there's a lot more technique involved. But yeah, so it's been around. There were some really good guys back then. And so there's a guy, John Brzezinski, who's the greatest arm wrestler of all time. And the reason he is because he dominated in an era that era will never exist again. There are freaks from European countries now that are just insane. Right. So when he was doing it, it was mainly North America. The Eastern Europeans were just starting to get involved. But that guy, he was 200 pounds and traveled the world and just took on all comers and basically went undefeated for like 20 years. I mean, he lost a few matches here and there, but he was the best that ever did it. And now there's just in the super heavyweight division, over like the 220, 240 weight class, top 10 in the world, 5 of us are from North America. But if you take any of the other weight classes, it's dominated by Eastern Europeans. Right. Strength is very, it's weird that their culture is different. It's almost more important to be strong than it is to be wealthy. In some of those countries, right?
Which of those guys did really well in all those strongman competitions.
Strongman, Olympic lifting, powerlifting, all that stuff.
Yeah, when I watched the World's Strongest Man competition, I noticed there's a lot of competitors named Magnus.
Yeah, that's that. Well, so the Icelandic countries are very strong in strength sports like strongman. They don't have as big of a heritage in arm wrestling. The arm wrestling is really more Eastern European, where they are more Olympic lifting and they have those accolades. But there's some very, very strong people out there. I mean, it's just like people talking about my hand. My hand's not big, especially considering the people that I've been around. A friend of mine, I should have showed y'all this video. So my training partner, his name is, we call him the Gorilla. He's Corey West, 31 years old, great kid.
The Gorilla.
You're the monster and he's the Gorilla.
Well, the kid, he looks like a gorilla. Yeah. Like he really does. He's a little bit taller than me. He's about 420 pounds. Whoa. Got a 26-inch skull. Massive.
That's bigger than Barton's skull.
No, I'm telling you guys, this kid.
Now I understand why he's got monster on his feet red.
Yeah, that's his name. That's his nickname. Yeah.
So there's a video of him. He worked at this plant, and these guys, they lost a key to a set of a padlock. So one guy went to go get a set of bolt cutters, and everybody else is standing around. Where Corey reaches down. Now, who would do this? Who would even think to try? He reaches down, grabs a padlock, and snaps it off with his hand.
Whoa.
And I'm like, who would even think to do that? Like, I'm not even thinking that it's a possibility. I'm just going to be sitting there telling stories about who's the man, you know? I mean, there's no way I'm trying that.
We use bolt
I told the story so many times. About 2 months later, he's like, hey, man, check your inbox. I looked in my inbox, and there it was. He's like, we told the story so many times, I felt like I should do it again. I got a video on my phone of him reaching down and grabbing this padlock and just snapping off with his bare hand.
See, I'm so embarrassed because I tried to cut one off with a bolt cutter one time and couldn't get it done. I mean,
using a bolt cutter.
I couldn't get it done. I hate to admit that. And this guy's like ripping them off.
Well, you know, the funniest part to me about that your appendix story is that's not the first time something like that has happened. Si had a heart attack while we were duck hunting, and the same thing happened. Si's laying on a log holding his chest, and Jay says, well, Si needs to go to the hospital. And Phil said, what time is it?
This is a man that does not wear a watch, for crying out loud.
I've never owned a watch. I thought for good reason, but I'm reevaluating that now.
The bottom line is, if something bad is going to happen to you in a duck blind, you want it to happen after 10 o'clock.
Yeah, that's right.
Because the 10 o'clock flight, we got to wait till that happens. After that, we might can get about to mending your whatever's wrong with it.
Michael, on that, how has the rules changed on arm wrestling? Because when I remember it, you couldn't move. It was all with your forearm. You know, you didn't move it. If you did, you cheated, you lost.
Okay, so that's how probably every one of us who ever arm wrestled just growing up arm wrestled that way.
Right.
The rules of arm wrestling have pretty much been the same since it's become an organized sport. You cannot make contact with your competing hand, like your shoulder can't touch it. You can't put your chin on. I mean, there's really you'll freak out. I've seen some stuff some people do. It's crazy, but yeah, we all started just like I grew up just like this. You're just supposed to push them down, and then you get to the professional sport of arm wrestling, and you get to use your whole body. But those rules they've always been the same since the sport was organized.
Oh, okay.
There's like a false start, right? Like you can't start you can't.
So if you go before the cadence, ready, go, it's a false start.
Okay.
It's a false start's a warning. 2 warnings is a foul. Some leagues have 2 fouls, you lose. Some leagues give you a 3rd foul. There's just a variety of rules. The World Arm Wrestling League, I'm the world champion for the World Arm Wrestling League. They have made the elbow pads longer. So instead of 7x7 square, they made them 7x9. They've incorporated running fouls, because a lot of times you'll watch a world championship event that's very strict rules, and you won't even get to see the match over because the guy fouled out. And they're like, well, what happened? Well, he false started, or his elbow hopped just a little bit. And that's not super entertaining. People,
right.
unless you are purist of the sport, you're like, well, that wasn't very cool. So they've made it more entertaining to the point to where you actually have to see pins. Like there's a little bit more freedom to do some crazy stuff, but at least you get to see the outcome of the match. So I've been involved in some 7+ minute matches from the time we slip strap, and from the time one of us gets pinned. It's
7 minutes.
Yeah, and it's best. And that was round 2, and we did 5 rounds. So just the second round was 7 minutes.
Oh my goodness!
I bet that seemed like an eternity.
It's a long time. Yeah. Most matches are pretty quick. I'm the guy that I basically made a career out of winning the unwinnable match. The match it's impossible to win from. I'd be in a particular spot, and if the guy wouldn't pin me, I'm like, well, I might as well pin him, So I would just get into a spot, and I was too stubborn to quit, and that's why I have all the fractures. And
you weren't content.
I was not. I did not follow the word. I was not content.
He has not learned it.
Let's take our last break. So you said you were on a tour. We got an audience everywhere. So do you know kind of where you're headed, like on your next few stops? Because people want to come check you out.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun. So it's 6 different legs. So we just finished the Northeast tour, which basically ended up coming all the way down here, right? Yeah. So we go home tonight, and then we're home for 2 weeks, and we take off on the Northwest tour. So we're going to go up. We're going to see a lot of the national parks, Mount Rushmore, Yellowstone. We're going to go up to Sturgis, going to take the RV through Sturgis and, do the beat the champ against some of the bikers and stuff. And I think that'll be fun.
So is there you have a website or someplace?
Yeah, so just YouTube Monster Michael Todd on YouTube, and then you can look at our community tab, and Rebecca puts up where we're going to stop at. Now, she's calling an audible. I did way too much arm wrestling on this tour. It's been 21 days, and I've arm wrestled like 16 of those 21 days. And I thought I was going to be pulling off the side of the road, breaking out the table, and just taking on normal people. Well, there's an app called Arm Bet, and all these arm wrestlers are on it, and I had the precise mode for my location. So every time I'd stop, these arm wrestlers, like 15 or 20 arm wrestlers would show up. My arm is so beat up. I've arm wrestled probably 1,000 matches in the last 3 weeks, and my arm hurts so bad. Because it's against legit arm wrestlers.
They're
right?
following you around, waiting for you to stop.
One guy's like, listen, I'm not going to go ask him. I'm just going to follow him. I know he's got to use the bathroom eventually. He's got to let his dogs out to pee. Yeah. So he just followed me the whole way. And once I stopped, he's like, hey, man, what's up?
And it's not exactly like you're traveling incognito.
No. I got
it's like a 30-foot,
Well, in the spiritual realm, we're going out and trying to stress to others to make the big break from the evil one and come to Jesus, and he's doing it in a physical way.
Yeah,
he's there to what that old guy telling, I must break you.
Rocky IV.
Rocky.
Speaking of Sylvester Stallone, didn't he do in the 70s like a arm wrestling movie?
Oh yeah,
Over the Top. It was like 1985, 86, something like that. So I was a big fan of that movie prior to because I was only like 13 at the time.
Right.
So I liked it just because I liked Stallone because of Rambo and all that other stuff. But eventually, when I was 20
he was
years
like a trucker, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the guy on the end of that, Bull Hurley, was the character he played. His real name was Rick Zumwalt. When I was 20 years old at a tournament in Texas, at the Texas State Fair, it was his comeback tournament, and I beat that dude. He was like 6'6", 350, he had a 21 ring, 21-inch forearm, 24-inch bicep, massive individual.
So you actually got to compete with the guy on the movie.
Yeah. I know all the guys from the movie. We're all real good friends.
Right. Did you ever meet Stallone?
Yeah, I've met him a couple of times. I've actually got to open up the Arnold Classic Europe with Schwarzenegger, and I've had some pretty cool life experiences, so it's been fun.
And when you play King of the Hill, how many have you actually arm wrestled in a row?
So we have practices pretty regular, and it'll be a bunch of arm wrestling, like actual people who know how to arm wrestle. And I've done 30 plus minutes back to back, just running through everybody. Say there's 15 or 20 people, and I'll just go through every one of them back to back to back to back. Now the Guinness World Record, this is against non-arm wrestlers. The most arm wrestling matches in 24 hours is 1,050.
Whoa.
Jan Incescu, a guy from Romania, did it in the mall in Romania. So he set the Guinness World Record. I've been wanting to break that world record for like the last couple of years. So Nine Line is talking about setting up something for me to do with them. Redcon was talking about me possibly doing it with them. But you have to have a venue big enough to where I can get 1,100 people to try me, right? So I'd like to but if you give me 1,100, no offense, but if it's just normal people, I could easily arm wrestle 1,000, 1,500 people back to back.
Well, they need to line it up like a Luke Bryant concert or something.
You notice when he said normal humans, he pointed at me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, extremely special, awesome individuals such as yourself.
His particular skill set should remind us that we really appreciate chasing ducks.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a simple life.
Because we got guys coming. He's got guys coming after him. I'm like, no, duck hunting's a lot more fun.
What's interesting to me is the mindset that somebody, you take one look at Michael, they want to take him on. I look at him and think, I don't want to, I like him. He's a nice guy. I don't want to, nothing physical. I don't want him, because I will get hurt.
In his line of work, your reputation is bringing them. They're coming at you because, you watch these Matt Dillon episodes, a lot of them
just old man,
say,
boy.
Gunsmoke,
you got a reputation and I am here to kill you. Well, it's not that bad with him, but it is a deal like I got to bump him off. Is that true?
Yeah, so you're definitely, people want to take a crack at you for sure. Right. Especially if and there's always somebody.
And your reputation is actually your front.
Al, what did Ric Flair say? To be the man, you got to beat the man.
Oh, no. Well, no. It was it's like the Russian and Rocky. I must break you.
So also, your wife, Rebecca, I didn't know this till you said it earlier before we started rolling, that she is an arm wrestler as well.
She's a 7-time national champion, and our son Ryan's also a
Really?
7-time national champion.
So have
Arm wrestling woman.
Yeah.
You're the first arm wrestling woman I've ever seen. Because I'm not really in the TV and all this internet. So
have y'all ever arm wrestled each other, or is that? I know you're in a different weight class. And all
yeah,
that.
so I'm the
and
one.
we don't want to offend the female line because everybody now, hey, so they would say it's not her. No, it's not.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. There's a woman in my at my jiu-jitsu school who whooped the tar out of me a couple of weeks ago. So I have an appreciation for strong women.
No. Hey, I've always told everybody, look, I will fight 10 men, okay, not against one female. I said, because the 10 men got a little common sense. A woman will kill you. Point blank. Yeah.
I'm not sure. If
Mama don't play.
I don't know if that's a compliment or not. I'm not sure how a woman would take that comparison.
Words to live by, though. Words to
Mama
live
don't play, boy.
Well, and I also know in our last couple of minutes here that Lida told me that you're a man of faith as well.
Amen, brother.
And so that's obviously helped you through your life and everything that's got you to where you are.
Oh,
because you're doing it for God's glory, right?
Yes, sir. I mean, and obviously Philippians 4:13 is my favorite quote because I can do all things through Christ. But I'm blessed to have this opportunity to go out and do the things that I love to do it, to have my best friend along with me, and it's so much fun to just fellowship with people, And you don't have to push anything down anybody's throat. You just have to be the best version of you can be, and let your light shine. Right. So
exactly right.
I'm just truly blessed.
Yeah, ambassador of Christ.
Yeah.
Well, I always say whatever Dad says, everybody has a gift, right?
Everyone has a skill set.
Skill set.
And they search for it. But when you find it, it is, it's comforting.
It is. And we always say, when you find that, you go full board, giving God glory in everything that you do, which is exactly what you guys are doing.
That's a unique skill set, my man.
It is. And we got to experience it and enjoy it on our podcast. Thanks to, of all people, Matt Lida.
Yeah, Matt Lida.
I guess Matt is good for something.
No, look, hey, that's why it's so important, okay, because you never know what you're going to run into.
Right.
And how it will affect your life.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep. Look at you, Si. You didn't even know what you were going to do until you were 63, and now you're everybody's favorite uncle.
Hey, I told Willie, I said, hey, when I found out, I didn't even know it. Willie said, well, first thing I was going to do when my dad gave me the company is I was going to fire you. And I said, well, hey, when your dad gave you the advice of don't mess with Uncle Si, I said, you done well to follow it, son. I said, because I was a diamond in the rough.
That's right. They were gonna use Si like Mountain Man, and they realized that Si was the show. Wow, which was awesome. Well, so check out the Duck Call Room. Also, check out Michael if you want to meet him. Don't line up to arm wrestling. Just meet him and tell him you heard about him on Unashamed.
Right.
We don't want to wear him out.
And here's advice. Do not mess with Rebecca.
That's it.
She will pin you in a heartbeat.
That's sound advice right there, I tell you.
That's a great closing line. So thank you, Michael, for coming.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me.
We enjoyed it. Thanks for listening to the Unashamed podcast. Help us out by rating us on iTunes. And don't miss an episode by subscribing on YouTube, and be sure to click that little bell to get notified about new episodes. And for even more content that you won't get anywhere else, subscribe to Blaze TV at blazetv.com/unashamed.